Welcome to Amiga Ireland. I'm Irla.
I'm Rob.
I'm Luke.
We've got some news, discoveries, games, and this time we also have a special section where we're going to review some magazines, as well as some community news and events. Lads, how have you been?
Well, I've been fine, quite honest. I've been rearranging my room in order to fit more hardware. I desperately need more space, so I'm trying to fit, additional C64 with a different SID chip. Because, as everyone knows, the C64 has got, can have two different types of SIDs, and they are very distinct and they can sound very different. Therefore, that's my main goal right now, to fit another C64 on my desk.
Okay, how about you, Rob? How are you doing?
Well, I'm also struggling for space here. I've lost my man cave basically because my little boy it's now his room. So I had to abandon that room, and now all my stuff is shoved into the spare room. So it's all very cozy in here. But it's tight, but it's fine. It's better than getting rid of it altogether. But I've been keeping busy. I've been working on the Checkmate 1500 project for Stephen Jones. So I've been working on some prototype circuit boards for that project. It's a new desktop case for the Amiga 500. And and that's been keeping me busy for the last while, what little time I have.
That's excellent. It's great to see stuff for Amiga 500 users.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the sounds of it, this is going to be a popular one. It's going to be, well, hopefully on Kickstarter now in a few months' time. So we'll see how it goes.
Good stuff. And where can people buy your adapters, Rob?
Yeah, I have to put some more of them together as well. But I have. Well, there's a thread on EAB, and you can get in touch with me on Facebook, and I kind of make them as people order them at this stage, because I think the initial kind of rush of them has died down. But they're still available. I still have a few parts here, so that's the story for the moment, anyway. But yeah, I haven't actually been pushing them either, so maybe I should do that.
Yeah, we can tweet it out from the account or something if you want to send us
if anyone's interested in a Zorro adapter for their A500, let me know.
Well, we had a few days of nice weather just gone by, and I went for my first swim of the year, and it was absolutely freezing. My body literally seized up in the water. So I think I'm going to try and continue that once a week. It was pretty good for the system. Got a great night's sleep after it and all that, but my God, it's cold.
I'm impressed.
I must say, you're very brave.
The things I do for my sanity sometimes. Also, I got a new pair of glasses, and I'd been wearing the glasses that I got in primary school because I used them so rarely. So I just treated myself to a new pair. And I was on AmigaUsers.ie, and I was aware that the header picture was a little bit blurred, but when I looked at it with the glasses, it was way more smudged than I thought. So I redid that and made a few tweaks to AmigaUsers.ie.
There you go.
I've also had the pleasure of meeting Eddie Carroll in Galway recently.
Great. That's great.
Yeah, cool guy. He was, I met him in the museum briefly. I just popped in to meet him, and my wife was driving. So I ran up to the museum, and when I came down, he was explaining how fibre optics work to my wife. It was brilliant. Like, we had so many little technical kind of conversations, but like in the interview we had with Eddie Carroll, and you can find that on the website, he's got a great way of making it very accessible to people.
Yeah.
So, it was really cool. It was really nice meeting Eddie, and I'll talk more about that in the news section. I suppose let's go to the news then.
Right, so Jacek Piszczak, one of the Morphos core developers, has prepared a great guide regarding MUI framework and Objective-C in Morphos. The link will be in the description notes.
Okay, and Versus issue 8 is getting ready for release. The last issue came out in December 2016. It's a demo scene chart, and they are now ready to start collecting votes for issue 8. And now we hope that people will vote for their favourite demos, games, intros, artists, and so on. You don't need to vote for everything on the vote sheet, but check out the link. It's on oldschoolgameblog.com, and and fill in your favourites there.
Oh, definitely. I encourage everyone to do so, to be honest, very, very important thing.
Now, as Luke was talking about Objective-C there for MorphOS, that's a fairly recent development, but it's the same developer has also ported it to OS3, which is very interesting. At least the core of it's there anyway, which is excellent to see. And there's an OS4 port in progress as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you think that might appeal to people who are already developing apps for mobile frameworks and stuff like that? Might make it easier for them, Rob?
Absolutely, because there are a lot of people who are sort of a bit removed from the raw C and the raw hardware banging and that end of things. So for making system friendly stuff, it's a lot more modern, I suppose. It's a more modern way of programming, and that's that'll help a lot of people who only learn to program in this millennium.
And Amicast have posted a video on how to edit a podcast using OS4. So there's a YouTube link in our show notes, and you can see Christoph there running through the applications and the workflow he uses. I didn't realise that he edits his podcast on OS4. That's really nice.
Yeah. It's impressive to dedicate it when there are so many tools available for other platforms. But yeah, that's great. The SMB file system, SMBFS, has been updated. Now, this has had a few updates over the last while, and they've been on, is it SourceForge or GitHub? Anyway, it's open source, and Olsen's been working on that fairly steadily over the last while. But there haven't actually been binaries released in a couple of years now, I think, or at least a year. So now someone has compiled it and uploaded it to Aminet. So it's basically a beta version, and it's kind of each small release is a beta version, but the latest current version fixes a lot of bugs that have been there for the last while. And anyone who has any network drives at home and uses their Amiga on them will know that this is a really good tool for for mounting network drives on the Amiga. And with this latest version, some of the problems have been fixed, and it also lets you mount Windows shares, or more modern Windows shares, without the security issues that the older versions had.
Yeah, SMBFS is amazing. It's so cool to see a little floppy disk icon on Workbench that you can double click and get through to an entire server's worth of your files.
Absolutely, and
I agree. I absolutely agree. It makes your life so much easier regarding transferring files over, like a home network. To be honest.
That's it. I use it all the time. I have a little network hard drive that I store all my stuff on, and it's just I'm constantly swapping things between machines, and that's has my public folder, if you like. It's great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's just a double click and there you go. Mm-hmm. No more, swapping or doing anything like that.
Absolutely.
So, some really good news for the Computer and Communications Museum of Ireland, which is based in Galway. Some new Commodore hardware has been donated by none other than Eddie Carroll, the author of Snoop DOS. So Eddie was on a road trip for himself, and he came by Galway on the way to drop off some things, and included were in the hardware a VIC-20, a Commodore 64, a Commodore 128, an Amiga 500, an Amiga 1000, and another Amiga 1000, which is NTSC, a CD32, some peripherals, manuals, and documentations from the first Commodore Ireland user group from a few years back. So it's a serious land. It's really fleshed out, the collection in the Commodore section.
And two A1000s. That's
nice.
That's nice. Yeah.
They are becoming very rare, especially the PAL versions now.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's probably Ireland's biggest collection of A1000s now.
Yeah, and if you're listening, Eddie, thank you again so much.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the amount of work you went through, he brought a lot of kind of magazines and stuff, and it's just the amount of work in loading up his car to begin with all that stuff was just insane. So thanks so much for all that hard work. It's absolutely fantastic that we can expand the Commodore display there. I'm hoping we can mount the CD32 on the wall, connect to a display, and then use the Amigas that are there to display applications, rather than just games, and show people what the machines are really about. So yeah, it's very exciting. And I think later this week, the new display space will be ready to put some of the extra units out. So thanks again, Eddie.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also Iris, the Morphos email client, has gotten a public beta version released, and you can check that out at the link in our show notes.
Ars Technica has published another episode of History of Amiga. This one is called Red versus Blue. It's a great reading, and it tells the story about a rough ride, actually, between the OS4 users and developers and the MorphOS users and developers, and all the bloody wars, all the stories, all the nice things, and also the bad things. So if you remember those, or if you want to know a bit of a a red versus blue wars, I encourage you to read it.
Ars Technica have been great for publishing Amiga articles over the years.
That whole series is brilliant to read. Yeah, it's really, really nice reading, and a good bit of history. And yeah, it's good. It's good when you're reading it and you get really angry because of all the rubbish that Commodore and Amiga went through over the years. But yeah, this part is quite good as well as a read, especially if you kind of missed the red versus blue stuff. A lot of people left in sort of the mid 90s and went on to the PC for Doom and whatnot, and are coming back to it now and finding, what's the story here? There's all these different factions, and the communities still killing each other sometimes. So this will give you good insight into why that is, and where it all started. So yeah, well worth a read.
Yeah.
Now this will be sort of a big one for a lot of people, but there's a new version of WinUAE in the works. It's a version 4.0, and there's a beta version available now that you can download and try out and send your reports in if you want to test it out. You'll find the thread on EAB, and I'll put a link in the show notes as well. But it's this update is a massive overhaul of the graphical subsystem. So while the overall compatibility probably won't be changed very much, well, we don't know for sure. But the main thing about it is that for computers with VSync and stuff like that, it's rebuilding it to minimize the lag and minimize the amount of basically the emulated feel of it, so to get it as close as possible to feeling the arcade feeling of the original machine. And that's it here. So if you have a VSync monitor or a G-Sync monitor and you want to give that a go, then pop along to EAB and have a look.
4 decades of Amiga demos have been released, and it's a 234 megabyte download for the CD32. It's available on pue.net, and thank you to Amigatronics on Twitter for letting us know about that one.
Great one, really great one. MorphOS SDK 3.12 has been updated, and the most important things are the implementation of Objective-C MUI, Clang compilation tool, update of libraries and other components, GCC5 and GCC 6.4 compilation tools. And if you're a developer, or if you want to start developing, for MorphOS, this is a very crucial and very important update for you.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay, let's move on to the gaming section.
Time for the Sensible Days tournament again, which is the annual Sensible Soccer World Championships. And that is being held this year on the 21st, 22nd of July in Billund in Denmark. So you can check out the details of that on sensiblesoccer.de. And if you're interested in it, you want to have a pop along, you can apply there and you can have a read about it. But basically, it's a 2-day World Cup of Sensible World of Soccer, and it's played on Amigas and PCs. So whichever version you tend to play. But yeah, this is apparently an awesome weekend for people. So well worth a look if that's your thing.
Road Avenger is a great port from a SNES console. The game reminds me of a Dragon Lair game. It features full-speed HAM6 video for all OCS machines and high-quality HAM8 video for AGA ones as well. And it's a fast-paced game, and I really encourage everyone to see and play it. Be careful with one thing, because it requires a lot of space on your hard drive.
Mm-hmm. It certainly looks amazing. You don't often get games running in ham, so it's very impressive looking.
And it works on OCS machines as well.
Well, the Nintendo Switch can now run Linux, and Arch Linux and Ubuntu have both been shown running on it, and I think there are images possibly, or at least an install process that you can look at to see how to get it running yourself. So with hardware acceleration for the NVIDIA chips coming along fairly nicely, hopefully it won't be too long until emulated Amiga will be possible on the Nintendo Switch.
Jean-François Fabre, known as GOTD, posted on the English Amiga board forum a request to all people who reported errors regarding the operation of slave files used to control WHD load games, as well as those currently encountering errors in their operation. The error database, launched over a dozen of years in the Mantis system, contains over 1,500 entries, most of which are caused either by the use of the pirated versions or the result of running the program on damaged hardware. So some of them are also incorrectly described, which makes it impossible to reproduce the errors, actually. Due to the fact that it is planned to improve existing real errors, in order to speed up this process, users are encouraged to help with it. Review of the current list of applications and appropriate confirmation by appropriate comment if the problem actually occurs in more than one person. Reporting new bugs by bug tracker instead of forum. Old and unacknowledged errors will be removed from the database, and I think this is a very important thing, because a lot of slaves actually for WHD load are somehow either damaged or need some improvement. So the link for that will be in the show notes, and I encourage everyone who uses actually WHD load to take part in that, to improve WHD load, which is a very, very useful tool in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's there are some games that kind of, you need to have timing issues on some of the new accelerators, and there are other things like that are slight problems that probably weren't there when the slave was written first a few years ago, and now are cropping up on newer hardware. So it's very important to get them refreshed, I suppose.
Updated, improved, yeah.
Right, well, we've got a special section this time. Instead of our normal discovery section, we're going to do a review of some magazines. There are loads of magazines for Amiga at the moment. Some are in print, some are digital downloads, some are both. Some Amigas, some magazines are available even from back in the day, like Amiga Format, that are on archive.org as PDFs. But there are a lot of current magazines being produced to a really high standard today and worth looking at. Languages include Italian, Polish, Spanish, French, German and English. We're going to just take one each and have a look at those. So the magazines we have are Amiga User Magazine, KA Plus Magazine and Amiga Future, and I'm going to start with Amiga User Magazine. So I've actually read 2 issues of Amiga User, and it started in 2017 and it comes out quarterly. It costs €8 plus €5 shipping to Ireland, and this magazine it's absolutely beautiful. The cover is stunning, and each issue basically has a theme. So the one I have is called World of Mathematica, and if you go to their website, you'll see their covers and this World of Mathematica one. So their World of Mathematica covers all kinds of things, like doing things like spreadsheets, but also, 3D graphics and rendering and things like that. So anything that's sort of calculation based. And it's very tutorial based, so it's focused on, like, if you're a person who likes to kind of do stuff and do projects, this magazine is really good for it. So we've got, for example, Amiga 500 and hard disk drive. So how to get that kind of a setup up and running if you don't have a hard disk already on your Amiga 500. The best monitor for work situations, mathematical drawing. So, like, if any of you used MATLAB or stuff like that in college, is the kind of thing that they're talking about. Typography, database management, bulk renaming of files, advanced disk recovery, how to use events in Directory Opus, creating titles in Monument Designer, TurboCalc, how to present your data in different ways using the different kinds of graphs and stuff. Really, really cool, useful stuff. There's also a section in this issue on running Linux on the Amiga 1200, which I'll tell you is no easy feat. I've tried to do it before to get it ready for Amiga Ireland for presentation, and it's not easy. There's part 1 of a Lightwave 3D tutorial, and there's a really nice article going through all the generations of Workbench. So it starts off with the first release of Workbench with screenshots and talks about the technical aspects and stuff, and then all the changes. Really, really good. And that's not including things like games, the Amiga OS 4 section, the Morphos section, and I think there's some AROS in there too. So a really nice magazine. Yeah, and, I could go on, but really I would just urge you to go to the website and check it out. It's called Amiga User Magazine, and the link will be in the show notes.
Next one is KA Plus magazine. Actually, it's called Commodore and Amiga Plus. I think it takes from the old, Polish magazine from the 90s. It was called just Commodore and Amiga, and I remember it very well. It was a great magazine. And this, actually, the Commodore KA Plus magazine is great as well. It is a magazine dedicated to retro gaming culture. Although the articles are usually focused around releases published on the Commodore home computers, like Plus 4, VIC-20, C16, C64, C12, and so on and so on. The primary goal by the publishers is to refresh the amazing atmosphere of the 80s and 90s, when the world was ruled by pixels and cheap music. The issue is divided into game reviews, editorials, interviews, and tutorials, and the latest issue is the autumn and winter issue. So let me just tell you, for example, from game reviews there are Theatre Europe, Rescue Org, or Turek, and the US version. From editorials, there are Memories of LucasArts, or Resurrection of Sid Meier's Pirates, interviews with David Pleasance, and also tutorials best picture quality from C64. Overall, the magazine is very beautiful as well. It's very colorful. It takes all the best features and all the best things from the past and incorporates into the new some sort of a layout. So I encourage everyone to have a look and to check it. One more thing, the price is €7 plus €5 for shipping to Europe, and the link will be in the show notes.
I'm looking at Amiga Future. Now it's, of course I'm doing some articles for that as well. So I'll try to hide my bias, but it's going 20 years, and it's again a lovely magazine, and all three of them are lovely. They're very well finished and very polished and professional on that. It's a nice magazine. It's sort of in the more traditional sense, as in, it has a news section, it has the serious stuff, it has the games, and, it looks at a lot of the older stuff and the new releases, and tries to cover the news from the Amiga scene. And so I think it does quite a good job now. And, it's, while if you have the internet, you're probably already familiar with this news and that. But, it's still nice to sit down with a cup of tea and, flick through it and read about the various things that have been released. And it's great like that. So that the current issue looks at The Dream of Rowan and Tower 57 are the two big releases that it looks at. And they have the cover space there. It also has a couple of reviews of classic games. There's in this particular one, there's an interesting report on Phase 5. Now, I don't know if anyone's been following the drama with that, but basically, a sort of Phase 5 got, the name has sort of become a new company. Basically, someone's bought the name and have been talking about selling new hardware. And this has been going on for a couple of years and nothing's shown up. But they did a special report on it, and they're very, very diplomatic, but kind of invite you to draw your own conclusions, because any requests for interviews were declined. The letters that were sent were returned undeliverable, and the registered phone number didn't work. So, well, there you go. That's they tried their best, and that was that. So, I'll say the same. Let's just make up your own mind about that. They also have a section on all the new releases from MorphOS, OS4 Depot, and AmiNet, and so it's like a couple of lines on some highlights of the releases in the last while. And there's of course the rather wonderful Blitz Basic Workshop, but that I'm writing, which is kind of it's going to be wrapping up now in about 6 months' time or so, in about 3 issues. So this magazine's every 2 months. All right, I don't know if I said that, but yeah. So I'm going to be wrapping that up in a while. There's also a free Pascal workshop, which has started there in the last issue, and that looks great as well. If you have an interest in Pascal or Delphi on the PC, and there's also a section that looks at new demo scene releases and gives a bit of a review of them. So it kind of covers a lot of stuff. Again, like I say, like the traditional. The old magazines from back in the day. It's a great to have a look at, and that is, if you can buy single issues from a lot of the normal Amiga shops and from Amiga Future for €6.50 plus shipping, or €9.50 if you want to get the one with the cover CD. Now, it's not for everyone, because a lot of the stuff is obviously available online, but they do occasionally have sort of exclusives and sort of full versions on the CD as well, which is nice. And if you're following my Blitz workshops, all the source code is on the CD, which is a little thing there. So that's available, but I can't actually tell you what the shipping costs. Because if you get a subscription, it's €51.90 for no CD and $69.90 with the CD, and that covers your shipping as well.
Ah, yeah, cool. Yeah, and didn't you say before, is the oldest running Amiga magazine?
It's the one, yes, the one that's still running. Yeah, it's, good 20 years there. They celebrated, I think, an issue or two ago, which is impressive.
That's great. And, what I really like about the three magazines, I have the three of them here beside me, and, there's no overlap. You could get all three, and,
absolutely,
there's no waste.
Yeah. And like I said, they're all beautifully finished and well printed and presented. And there is something nice about sitting down and reading it. And I know you probably heard the news a month ago or whatever on the forums, but it's really nice, and especially when someone's taken the effort to write it, and you can sit down with your cup of tea on a Sunday and have a good read of it. It's nice. And so I think I have a KA Plus there as well that I picked up at the Amiga Ireland show in January, and it's a great publication. That's it. It covers all the games and covers the Commodore stuff as well. So there, like you said, there's basically no overlap, and it's really nice to see that, and to see that there's a market for this. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've left out some other magazines. So if there's an Amiga magazine that you're enjoying that isn't among those three, let us know. Drop us a line at info@amigausers.ie, and we'll mention it next time. Absolutely, we give it a look and see what we think. Cool. Okay, community news and events. There's an event coming up in Norway on May 12th and 13th. A new Amiga is being developed which has emulation inside. It promises to be better than current emulation experiences, but doesn't have any of the licenses from the various IP owners. So their plan is to have a working demo of the front end at Retrospillmessen in Norway, May 12th and 13th, and you can go to www.newamiga.com, and thanks to oldschoolgameblog.com for that.
Chris Halsbach concert is in June the 11th, and apparently it takes place in Germany, in Dortmund, and it's entitled Symphonic Selections, Video Game Music in Concert, so it's probably some sort of a mixture of classical music or orchestral classical music plus gaming music written by Chris. If you are down there by any chance and like projects like that, I do encourage you to have a look and listen.
It sounds awesome.
Okay, Ask Amiga.
There was a question on the Retro Stack Exchange there a little while ago about how to quickly create an icon for an Amiga program in a workbench drawer. This is one of these things that's unique to the Amiga. It's one of these things that I really love about the Amiga OS. You know, I love the way it works, but it is confusing, and I can see that if you come from any other platform. So basically, in Workbench, icons, you can normally by default only see them if the file has an actual icon file associated with it. So basically, if you have a file called readme.txt, it will only have an icon visible if you have also have an icon called readme.txt.info. And that info contains the graphics information for the icon image, as well as, you know, some other metadata on the file. Without that, the OS hides it by default on the desktop. You can show that by going to the window Show All Files menu. Then Workbench will give them a default icon, and so you can still manipulate the files. They just don't have their own personalized icon for that file. That's basically it. The file is kept there, and normally when you drag a file around with Workbench, it copies the icon and copies the file at the same time, so you don't need to worry about it. If you're using the shell, it's a different story. That's all well and good, but if you want to create an icon for a file, it's a little bit trickier. So the easiest way, really, for all versions of the OS is to just copy an existing icon. So if you have another drawer on the Workbench directory, or in your Workbench partition, or on your Workbench floppy disk, you can just copy the icon by using the shell and using the copy command. So copy, for example, system.info to whatever your drawer name is like files.info. And that will copy the icon used for the system folder or system drawer to the files drawer. And now they both look identical. So that's the simplest way of doing it, really, for all systems. They'll share the same properties and all that, but it'll work fine, and then you can do whatever you need to. There are icon collections that you can download, and you can copy icons if you want. If you have OS 3.9, there are also other techniques. So you can, if you open the file information window, so that's just icon information for the file with its default icon, you can just drag whatever icon you want in over the default image, and it will save that then to the icon and create an icon specially for it. So that's, if you're using OS 3.9, that's it, and 4, and I think MorphOS does it as well. That's an extra sort of handy little way of doing it graphically without having to open the shell. And that's, I use that quite a lot, actually, for copying icons across. And that will create the icon file even if it doesn't exist. So what is interesting is you can also use the imagery from the default icon. So let's say you have a folder or a drawer that doesn't have an icon, and you go to Show All Files, there's the drawer. You get the information window open, and you can drag its own icon into it, and it will save a copy of the default icon as the actual icon for that drawer. So that's a nice little touch, and it's very quick to do. A little bit of background on the icons themselves is that you have two separate icons stored in the icon file. So normally, there's a picture of a drawer open, or, there's some sort of action in the icon to show you that's being clicked. So you got a selected and unselected image, and they're both stored in there, along with things like, the tool types, which are sort of like, application specific settings, startup priority, and things like that. So sometimes it's necessary to have an icon just to be able to set those settings. And so, so it's always useful to be able to create an icon like that. On the NG systems, MorphOS just uses a PNG file and uses metadata of the PNG file to store all this information. And OS4 uses a sort of special version of the OS 3.9 format to store its new graphics, which are, also stored in a separate location, but with a plugin can use PNG files as well. So with those systems, provided you have the plugin on OS4, you can actually just save a PNG file, and that becomes an icon as soon as you rename it from .png to .info. And then there you have your icon. And it's very, very simple like that. So, I think that kind of covers it. That's a very quick overview of how icons work on Amiga OS.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think it can catch people out sometimes that when they know a file is there, but they don't see it in the window, on the file manager.
Absolutely. And when people, especially if they're getting to grips with the system and they move a file with the shell or something, rename it with the shell, and don't rename or don't move the icon, then suddenly they're left with an icon that's not attached to anything, and, it doesn't do anything when you double click it. So it's a funny system and takes a little bit of getting used to, but like I say, I like it. I kind of miss the flexibility of that on other systems.
Yeah. Okay, well, next time in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking with somebody from the Amiga 3D modelling scene, as well as the creator of AmiBerry. So tune in to hear our interview with our Greek friends Maudib and Midwan. And we had planned to release this last month, so we mean it this time. We are going to have this interview in 2 weeks' time.
That's my fault. I'm holding my hands up here. I dreamt I did it. I don't know what happened, but I was utterly convinced I was finished with it. Yeah.
Life.
Babies and stuff.
Yeah, that's
Baby
right.
brain. But anyway, yes, apologies for that.
Not at all. When you've got a baby under the year of, under the age of 3, that's not the worst thing that can happen,
Yeah. There you go.
2 more years to go for me.
Yeah.
My sister left the shopping on the roof of her car one time and drove home with half of it up there. Okay, thanks guys, and thanks everyone for listening. Music was by Banjo Gayali and Virtual Dimensions, and we're going to play out with a song called Einsteinium 01, composed by Einstein of the War Falcons.
You done, Luke?
Yes, I am.